At 99 years old, no one asked about his story anymore. William Bill O'Connor was the quietest resident at Sunset Manor Nursing Home. Every day he would sit in the same chair looking out the window. He never complained, never had long conversations with anyone. Until that day when young nurse Sarah saw his reaction to the date June 6th. This date, only D-Day veterans could remember it that way. Welcome to Hidden Hero Stories. Before we begin this unforgettable Greatest Generation story, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like these war heroes need to be heard, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these stories alive. In Chester County, Pennsylvania, Sunset Manor Nursing Home was having a quiet day. This 150-bed elderly care facility housed dozens of elderly people spending their final years, and the oldest of them all was 99-year-old William Bill O'Connor. Bill had been living in the same room for 4 years, room 237, with a window overlooking the garden. Every morning he would wake up at 7, eat breakfast at 8, and sit in his favorite chair in the common room at 9. He would stay there until 6 in the evening, reading books, watching television, looking out the window. The nurses and staff loved Bill. He never caused problems, never complained, and was always polite. "Thank you," he would say for everything, but he never had long conversations. He would give short answers to questions, smile, and return to silence. "Bill is a very kind man," said head nurse Margaret, "but very withdrawn. His family rarely visits. He's always alone." This was true. Bill's family, his grandson Mike and his grandson's wife Linda, would visit once a month, usually short visits. They wouldn't have deep conversations with Bill. They just knew him as Grandpa Bill. No one questioned Bill's past in detail. His file said, World War II veteran, but there were no details. The staff assumed he was an ordinary veteran. At the beginning of that June, a new nurse came to the nursing home. Sarah Thompson, 28 years old, a new graduate. This was her first job, and she loved working with elderly people. Sarah's duty was to check on patients in B Wing, which included Bill. On the first day she met Bill, his dignity and posture caught her attention. "Hello, Mr. O'Connor," said Sarah. "I'm Sarah, your new nurse." Bill looked at Sarah. "Hello, Sarah. Welcome." "Thank you. How are you feeling today?" "I'm fine, thank you." Sarah noticed Bill's way of speaking and bearing. He was different from other elderly residents. He appeared more erect, more disciplined. Days passed. Sarah began observing Bill more closely. She noticed that he woke up at the same time every morning, made his bed military style, and kept his belongings perfectly organized. "Bill's room is always very tidy," Sarah said to Margaret. "Yes, it's been like that for 4 years. Military discipline, I guess. He's a World War II veteran?" Sarah was curious. "What branch did he serve in?" "I don't know. He never talks about these things." Sarah wanted to learn about Bill's military background, but Bill wasn't very open to personal questions. On the morning of June 6th, Sarah was doing her morning rounds in B Wing. When she came to the common room, the History Channel was playing on television. There was a D-Day anniversary special program. Other residents were chatting and playing games. But Bill was locked onto the television. The program was describing the Normandy landings. Sarah observed Bill's reaction. The man was completely focused, and tears were flowing from his eyes. "Casualties were heavy at Omaha Beach," the narrator was saying. "The 2nd Ranger Battalion showed incredible courage to capture Pointe du Hoc." Bill's hands trembled. "My God," he whispered. Sarah approached. "Mr. O'Connor, are you all right?" Bill looked at Sarah. His eyes were teary. I was there." Sarah's heart stopped. "Where?" "Pointe du Hoc, 2nd Rangers, D-Day." Sarah's breath stopped. Bill had been at D-Day. "Really?" Bill nodded. "June 6, 1944. I'll never forget." Sarah sat next to Bill. "Would you tell me about it?" Bill hesitated. "It's been a long time. No one cares anymore." "I care. Please." Bill looked at the Normandy images on television. "No one can understand what we saw there." Sarah tried to gain Bill's confidence. "I can try, if you want to tell me." Bill looked at Sarah for a long time. Then he began to speak. "I was 19 years old. I had volunteered from Brooklyn. I was selected for the Rangers in 1943. Was it hard to be selected for the Rangers? The hardest? Physical tests, endurance training, specialized combat training. Only the best of the best were chosen. Bill spoke, remembering those days. The 2nd Ranger Battalion was an elite unit. Our missions were impossible missions. Sarah listened carefully to Bill's story. Before D-Day, we trained for months, in England, at special camps, rock climbing, amphibious assault, cliff scaling. Why cliff scaling? Because Pointe du Hoc was a 100-foot-high cliff, and German artillery was there. Bill pointed to the Pointe du Hoc images on television. Our mission was to climb that cliff and destroy the German guns. Sarah understood the difficulty of the mission. On the morning of June 6th, we approached Normandy in landing craft. The sea was rough, the weather was terrible. Bill's voice began to tremble. We could see Omaha Beach, explosions, gunfire, chaos. Boys were dying. Were you scared? I was terrified, but training kicked in. We had learned to suppress fear. Bill was reliving that moment. When we approached Pointe du Hoc, German machine guns met us. Many of our boats were hit. How did you survive? Luck and ranger training. We reached the base of the cliff and fired our ropes. Bill began describing the cliff climbing. 100 feet straight up, German soldiers were throwing grenades from above. They were trying to cut our ropes. Sarah could feel the adrenaline. How long did the climb take? It felt like eternity, maybe 30 minutes. But my friends, many of them fell. Bill's eyes filled with tears. When we reached the top, we stormed the German positions. Hand-to-hand combat, kill or be killed. Sarah could see Bill's trauma. Was the mission successful? Yes and no. We destroyed the guns, but the cost was very heavy. What do you mean? 225 Rangers started the mission, 90 survived. Sarah's heart tightened, a 60% casualty rate. How did you survive? Bill thought. I don't know. Luck, training, adrenaline, and the spirits of my dead friends protected me. Sarah understood Bill's survivor's guilt. What happened after the mission? I recovered in the hospital, shrapnel wounds, concussion, then back to combat. What did you do for the rest of the war? We advanced through France, battles, liberations. I stayed in combat until 1945. Bill remembered the war's end. When the war ended, I returned home. But home was different. I was different too. How different? There was no such thing as PTSD back then. They called it shell shock. But there was no treatment. Bill described his post-war struggles. Nightmares, flashbacks, survivor's guilt. I lived with them for 50 years. Sarah appreciated Bill's strength. Did you start a family? Yes, I married Mary. In 1947, we were married for 55 years. I lost her in 2002. Children? I had a son, Michael. I lost him in Vietnam. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Bill had experienced the pain of 2 wars. Is that why you don't talk about these things? Bill nodded. Too heavy, and no one understands anymore. Sarah understood Bill's isolation. Mr. O'Connor, your story is incredible. Why doesn't anyone know? Because I'm just an old man now. The past should stay in the past. But you're a hero. Bill shook his head. The heroes died in Normandy. I'm just a survivor. Sarah admired Bill's humility. From that day on, Sarah began spending more time with Bill. She listened to his stories and provided him company. One day, Bill told Sarah he wanted to show her something. There's something in my room. No one has seen it. I want to show you. Sarah went to Bill's room. Bill opened the bottom drawer of his dresser. He took out a small wooden box. What is this? Things I saved from Normandy. Bill opened the box. Inside were medals, photographs, and letters. This is a bronze star, said Bill, showing a medal. It was given for Pointe du Hoc. Sarah took the medal. This is priceless. And this, said Bill, showing an old photograph. 2nd Rangers before the mission. Our last photo. In the photograph, young soldiers stood in a group. Bill was in the front row, 19 years old, looking proud and determined. Most of these boys, Bill's voice broke. You never forgot them. Never. I see them in my dreams every night. Sarah understood Bill's burden. Mr. O'Connor, would you consider sharing this story with others? Why? Because people read about D-Day in history books, but you're a real witness. Living history. Bill hesitated. Who would care? Everyone, especially the young generation. They need to know the price of freedom. Sarah spoke with the nursing home administrator. Margaret, Bill's story is incredible. Maybe we could arrange an interview with the local newspaper? Margaret was surprised. Bill? He's a D-Day veteran? Not just D-Day, 2nd Ranger Battalion, Pointe du Hoc. Margaret's jaw dropped. This is incredible. A week later, a local newspaper reporter came to the nursing home. Bill was initially reluctant, but with Sarah's encouragement, he agreed to the interview. The reporter was amazed when he heard Bill's story. Mr. O'Connor, your experience is priceless. This story should be shared. Why? Because you're a living piece of American history. The interview came out on the front page of the newspaper. Headline, Local Nursing Home Resident, D-Day Hero in Our Midst. The article's impact was immediate. Local TV stations, history societies, and veteran organizations began contacting Bill. Within a month, Bill had become a local celebrity, but he was uncomfortable with the attention. Sarah, this is too much. I just want a quiet life. Mr. O'Connor, you're an inspiration. You're becoming a role model for young people. One day, a special visitor came. Retired Army General James Mitchell from the D-Day 75th Anniversary Committee. Mr. O'Connor, I invite you to the ceremony in Normandy for the 75th anniversary. Bill was surprised. To Normandy? Yes, the American Battle Monuments Commission is sponsoring it to honor the last surviving Rangers. Bill became emotional. I haven't been back for 75 years. You can go for those who can't return, for your fallen comrades. Bill thought for a long time. I accept. Sarah offered to go to France with Bill. The nursing home gave special permission. In June 2019, on the 75th anniversary, Bill returned to Normandy. At 99 years old, in a wheelchair but determined, when they arrived at Pointe du Hoc, Bill had an emotional breakdown. This place hasn't changed at all. Sarah stood beside Bill. How do you feel? I've come home, to my fallen friend's home. During the ceremony, Bill was the guest of honor. He was invited to give a speech. Bill approached the microphone. His voice was shaky but strong. 75 years ago, 225 young American boys climbed this cliff. Only 90 of us survived. This ceremony is for them. I'm just the messenger. The audience gave a standing ovation. Freedom isn't free. It has a price, and my dead friends paid that price. Don't forget them. Bill's speech received international media coverage. The video went viral. When he returned from Normandy, Bill was a different person. He was now proud to share his story. At the nursing home, regular story sessions began. Local schools brought their students to meet with Bill. Kids, war hero stories aren't just in movies. Real heroes live among you, Sarah would say. Bill began to love talking with children. Grandpa Bill, are you a real hero? Asked an 8-year-old child. Bill crouched down to the child's level. No, sweetheart. The heroes are buried in Normandy. I'm just a witness. But the children saw Bill as a hero. A year later, Bill's 100th birthday came. The nursing home organized a big celebration. The local mayor, state senator, and veteran organization representatives came. Bill, you're a living legend, said the mayor. Bill remained modest. I'm just a lucky survivor. At the party, Bill's grandson Mike was also there. For the first time, he had learned his grandfather's real story. Grandpa, why did you never tell me? Because you never asked, said Bill, smiling. Mike became emotional. I'm sorry, I didn't know. It doesn't matter. Now you know. That night, Bill thanked Sarah. Sarah, you changed my life. How? You showed me that my story has value, and sharing helps with healing. Sarah smiled. You showed me that real heroes are humble. Bill lived to be 101 years old. In 2021, he died peacefully. Hundreds of people came to his funeral. A military honor guard performed the ceremony. The flag was given to Mike. "Your grandfather served his country with distinction," said the officer. Bill's tombstone reads, "William Bill O'Connor, 2nd Ranger Battalion, D-Day veteran, American hero, 1921 മുതൽ 2021. But his most important legacy is his shared story. The local history museum displays Bill's exhibit. Sarah now works in veteran affairs. She asks every elderly veteran the same question. Would you like to share your story? Because Bill taught her that the greatest heroes often hide in plain sight. They're just waiting for the right person to ask the right question. As Hidden Hero Stories, we ask you, have you ever met someone like Bill? An elderly veteran, family member, or neighbor? Have you asked about their stories? Share in the comments. Because very few people from the greatest generation remain, and their stories are living pieces of American history. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, subscribe and share. Because every day we lose a greatest generation hero. Before their stories are lost, ask, listen, and remember. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, ask your questions to the elderly people around you. They might be living history.